This is CBS.
Look, Dave, I've had it with you. We tried everything to get this record recorded. Every single time we start arguing about this, I'm really fed up with it.
Look, Alvin, I mean, if you're not happy, there's the door. Get out, okay? Because, I mean, we're here to make money, and we're not here to argue about what you want to be recorded on the record and what we know has to be recorded.
So that's the way it is, huh, Dave? It's either your way or the highway, huh?
Okay, listen, this is the control room. Let's cut out that arguing, alright? Let's get on back to recording. We gotta get this thing done. Very good, Simon.
Naturally.
You were smooth, Theodore. Alvin, you were kind of flat. Watch it. Alvin? Alvin!
That takes care of you, Dave.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching CBS News special documentary on the 50th anniversary revelations of why Alvin the Chipmunk shot down Dave Seville on Christmas morning in 1965. Children who were alive during that time will not remember what happened. Why? Because the government and the media have suppressed it and not discussed this event since it actually took place. There have been other report follow-ups since that time, but only in a very short-term duration, which means they gave all of this issue very low priority to the media. Anything discussed, it was suppressed and said to discuss it for less than 5 or 10 seconds at most, and anybody who contacts or asks about this, you are not to discuss it with anybody. And that's how the media actually handled it. The newspapers were also given restriction notification from the government not to discuss this. Why they did all of this, what was behind it, you were about to see in this documentary tonight. It has not aired since 1985. CBS actually tried to destroy the prints and everything else about this program. But through the archives, I have found some audio segments through the audio department at CBS News, and we're now presenting it here for the first time tonight. I'm sorry to say that there is no video that exists, but the actual document, the memorandum that's mentioned, is shown, and we will show it again here in this video at the end of the program tonight. Without further ado, I'm David Carter Jr., and what you are about to hear was recorded in 1985 by my father for CBS News. It has never been aired again since.
CBS News.
Tonight on CBS News, a special 20th anniversary report on the real reasons why Alvin the Chipmunk shot down Dave Seville in 1965. This event has been suppressed by the government and by all the major networks. And now, here is David Carter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for this chance to share with you something that you all will be completely shocked when you hear about this. December 25th, Christmas morning in 1965, and this is 20 years ago, Alvin the Chipmunk came into the EMI studios with the intention to record an album with Simon, Theodore, and Dave Seville. But what happened was anything but normal. We know from the facts that we have learned that Alvin did not shoot Dave Seville. Why do I say that? Because, as you are going to learn tonight, we have determined from an actual memorandum that was released in 1981 by the Department of Justice that the government itself knew who had actually shot Dave Seville that Christmas morning. During the time that I was investigating this And it's approximately been 2 years in the process of us finally doing this report. I gave up on the idea of doing any kind of a actual background of what happened because we had no archives. CBS itself had nothing. So I went back and I tried to examine newspaper reports or anything else we had. And really there was nothing. So I gave up on it, and approximately a week after I began another story, somebody left a memorandum on my desk in an envelope. I opened it figuring, well, somebody's bringing me another news story, and to my surprise, it was a top secret classified document from the Department of Justice, and it was dated sometime in 1981. Now, when I looked at it, at first I thought it was probably fake. It wasn't real. And then as I continued examining it and noticing other facts, I realized this is a real document. It's not a fake. It's not something somebody created and put on my desk. But I still, to this day, do not know who actually gave it to us. I looked it over, and the first thing I thought of was, could this really be a true fact? And then I realized it was true. Because as I examined what I saw, the facts began piecing together about the true event itself. And really the only reason I knew that this had happened at all was that my own father had told me about it as I got older. But he told me that the government had told the media and told CBS that they were not to discuss this with anybody anymore. And so that's why now, looking back, trying to find documentation, I found out that there was no evidence that any such event took place. They could not hide the fact that there were actual witnesses who saw these things. And so I went to the police department and I started digging into their archives, and I found records. But this is what I've learned in the time frame since I read the document itself. The memorandum is signed by the Director General of the Department of Justice. It is actually a year-by-year document that overviews what the Department of Justice learned right after Alvin shot Dave Seville in Hollywood. This is what I know to this date. Number one, the individual who was at the studios was an imposter. He was not Alvin. This government Department of Justice document claims and shows proof that Alvin was abducted by a rival record company around 1965, about maybe November or October, possibly even September of 1965. He was held against his will, and thereafter an imposter was placed in EMI to take his actual identity. Thereafter, they intended for this imposter to shoot Dave Seville with the intention that killing Dave would disband the entire group known as Alvin and the Chipmunks. The rival company already had its own record label for the Chipmunks, and they did it in order to monopolize on this ever-expanding organization known as Chipmunk Music. And so, when the individual attempted to shoot Dave and failed, they were, of course, arrested. This rival company, as we've learned, was Peter Pan Industries. They had someone within the prison system at San Quentin who killed Alvin, the imposter, cut his throat, and thereafter the government began trying to identify where was Alvin, and they actually secured his release. He was given a new identity, and then during the following years, he was allowed to restart his career to do whatever he wanted. But he wanted to continue with EMI. And so because of this, he eventually was able to return and do more records as Alvin. Why? Because when he was put in the witness protection program after being released or liberated from whoever did this, they gave him plastic surgery and changed his appearance so that nobody would ever know who he really was. During the time that he was incarcerated or abducted by these people, he wasn't sure if he would ever actually be released or anything. And what we know from researching the facts regarding this, that he now is the current replacement for Alvin that everyone has always known since the 60s, because he eventually was able to come back. Now, we couldn't interview Alvin's band leader, Dave Seville. Sadly, he died in 1972. And the documentary memorandum we have identifies these facts, that he had died about the same time as the creator of Alvin and the Chipmunks, Ross Bagdasarian. And so we could not get any other facts except for what this memorandum states, because it has not been declassified by the Department of Justice. We don't have any new information other than the fact that it was not Alvin who shot at Dave at the studios. It was this imposter. Now, in the years since the actual shooting and the fact that this imposter died, the memorandum states this, that they arrested those individuals who were involved in this conspiracy to shoot and kill Dave Seville. They were charged, sentenced also to imprisonment, ironically at the same place, at San Quentin. And in my researching San Quentin's past criminal prisoner records, I found that these individuals who worked for Peter Pan Industries is now actually deceased. They were killed within the prison by somebody else. So you have a triangle of events here. They assassinate the imposter who tried to kill Dave, and then they themselves were assassinated by those same inmates at the prison. Why? Because they weren't paid what they were promised, so they assassinated or killed the same people. So it is definitely a triangle. It is definitely a group organization. Now, according to this record from the memorandum, they state this. They believe that organized crime was behind this entire fiasco. That's the only way they could place people within the prison system to kill the imposter, and then they subsequently killed those who were involved in the conspiracy to assassinate or murder Dave Seville too. But we haven't identified anything else about that person, because the memorandum states that the individual was killed. He's dead. The mob boss died a few years back, and now we don't have any way to contact him, obviously. But this is by far the most bizarre story I have ever seen in my life. And really, the memorandum speaks for itself. Now, coming up in the next segment, after these commercial interruptions, we're going to speak with Alvin himself. But, of course, he's not called Alvin anymore. So stay with us. We will be right back in a moment.
This is CBS.
Even if we want it, why should I swing it like that? Because I'm a drug. This is where it's at. You can get with this, or you can get with that. Fact.
Greetings, everybody. You are monitoring your local Chipmunk information channel. We've learned that one of our own, Alvin, has been charged with first-degree manslaughter.